couldn't comprehend my own internal dialogue. It was just spinning, looping, negative, dark thoughts. I actually had to file bankruptcy, spent every penny I had, went into debt, tried all the supplements, yoga, mantras, meditations, therapists, fasting, juice fasting, water fasting, drinking my own urine, literally just desperate to find something. I went deep. Once I started drinking ayahuasca, I started viewing everything as a spiritual illness. I remember the very last ceremony, the shamans looked at me, cerca de muerte. Basically, I'm near to death. And they looked at me and laughed, like, sí, amigo. And I realized, holy shit, this is not as spiritually complex as I'm making it out to me. I'm being poisoned every single day. And that's when my life changed. What I did to get well is I just said, give me the solution. I'm gonna do the solution. I'm gonna see how I feel. And I learned about my body that way.
I completely agree with that. If testing worked, we wouldn't all be chronically ill. Josh Macin, welcome to my podcast.
Good to be here.
This is very exciting. I think we connected a couple of years ago when I got really sick from mold and was trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And we had a couple of conversations that were very interesting. And I wanted to get a podcast in for a very long time. So before we get into all the questions I have, can you give a background about who you are, what happened to you, how you got to have a following about, and talk about what you talk about, which is interesting.
Totally. Yeah. So, I basically had 3 different lifetimes in this life. I had my life before illness, I had my illness, and then I had life after illness.
Yeah.
And my life before illness, I was traveling around the world competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was a world champion, Pan American champion, super successful at Jiu-Jitsu, but I was also successful in my career. I was an analyst at several different companies, working in finance, and living in the Lower East Side. Like, I thought I had it all, and I thought I had life figured out. And in October of 2013, I hit that, what I now know is like the body burden point, where I had a complete health collapse. It was a major mental, physical, spiritual collapse that seemed like it was overnight. It was about a 2-week period of time where I went from being that guy, whoever that Josh was for my first lifetime, to like being in the fetal position, crying, unable to function, panic attacks, not sleeping, hearing voices, hearing all kinds of terrible negative voices in my head, totally not functional. I was panicking every single hour of the day. I was not sleeping. And that was just the start, right? That was just the start. That went on for 4 years. And for those 4 years, I basically lived in a 24/7, maybe 21/7, because I slept for a couple hours a night, state of pure terror. It's very hard to put into words if someone hasn't dealt with it, but you essentially feel like you are tripping on acid, right? Like I wasn't taking any drugs, wasn't taking anything, wasn't altering my state, but I felt like I was tripping on drugs every single day. I was just a walking panic attack. I started losing faculties. I started to not trust myself. I started to the one narration where my entire life before that, I had like 1 or 2 voices in my head that were narrating my life. It splintered out into like 5, 6 different voices. I mean, not like schizophrenic voices, but just like I couldn't comprehend my own internal dialogue, my own internal narration. It was just spinning, looping, negative, dark thoughts.
Yeah. Okay.
4 years of that and doing everything I possibly could to heal. I did ketamine IVs. I did a ton of mushrooms. I lived in the Amazon jungle for almost a year and drank ayahuasca 31 times.
Wow.
So just smashed myself with ayahuasca and just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. I was doing a dieta, which is like an apprenticeship with the shamans, which is the deepest, let's call it, stage of ayahuasca. Like, I wasn't just at a normal facility with other, gringos. I was like isolated in the Amazon, only dealing with shamans who didn't speak English, and isolated in a hut without human contact.
My gosh.
And drinking ayahuasca 4 times a week. And this was all with severe mold, mercury poisoning, and Lyme disease, which I didn't know at the time.
So you assumed it was something like psychological burnout, and you needed to kind of get your mental faculties back, basically. And so treated it that way initially.
The first way that I treated it was through psychiatric medications. That was the first step. I was like, that was the first 4 months. I just broke down to my parents and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I've lost control of my mind. I've really lost control over whoever I thought I was. And so I tried like 7, 8 different psych medications. None of them worked. And I ended up flushing them cold turkey to go fly to the Amazon.
That was probably a good decision, honestly.
Not the cold turkey part.
Not the cold turkey
Yeah.
part, but the not
Yeah.
continuing them and
Yeah.
doing something else.
Yeah. So I was
Yikes.
doing research and learned about this ayahuasca thing and flew to the Amazon, and I had several visits after that. So once I started drinking ayahuasca, I started viewing my illness differently, started viewing the world differently, and I started to view everything as a spiritual illness.
Yeah, okay.
And that's why I was still on the path of ayahuasca, because I thought it was a spiritual emotional illness. I didn't even take into account toxicity. I didn't know anything about that. That didn't exist in my world. So it was purely, to answer your question, it was purely a function of, I feel spiritually sick. I feel emotionally sick. Something is wrong with like my bloodline, like my family, like everything that's going on. My grandparents had a lot of certain illness, and my parents had dealt with their stuff. So I'm like, this is just a bloodline thing, and I'm going to purge it from my bloodline.
Yeah, okay.
And
I've been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the space behind continuing to drink ayahuasca, even though it was fracturing me, totally and utterly fracturing me.
You starting your own college?
Yeah, well, it's well started.
The progressives hope for universal education at something approximating zero cost. That's what we've got.
We can bring you the best lectures that you'll be able to get anywhere in terms of their quality of content and also the production values. All the people we're bringing on board are existential philosophers in some real sense. We think that a humanities education should enrich your experience in every direction and be nothing but positive. Well, except also difficult and challenging, but that's also positive.
Yeah, we certainly didn't have that when I was a kid.
This was 2016. I finalized my I remember very vividly, it was my last ayahuasca ceremony, because the shamans and I nearly died in the ceremony. I was 25 pounds underweight. I was fainting every day.
Oh.
I was completely just emaciated and just at the end of my rope. This was 3.5 years into it, into giving everything I had. Was bankrupt. So I actually had to file bankruptcy, spent every penny I had, went into debt, tried all the supplements, yoga, mantras, meditations, therapists, all the different things. For those 4 years, it's not like I was just drinking ayahuasca. I was doing everything.
Yeah.
Fasting, juice fasting, water fasting, drinking my own urine, like literally just desperate to find
deep.
something. I went deep,
Yeah.
right? So I remember the very last ceremony, the shamans looked at me and we said in Spanish, and they laughed. We were just like, cerca de muerte, and it's very terrible Spanish, but basically I'm near to death. And they looked at me and laughed like, sí, amigo, because they laugh at everything. They don't have the same moral overlay that Westerners do. They're just like, oh, if he dies, he dies, so, which is hard to believe, but that's the space they carried. They were pure indigenous Shipibo shamans. Life and death is all connected to them. So that was the second to last ceremony. And then the next day I drank a little teaspoon and had another really bad experience. And then we said, I'm done. And I flew home, and I was 3 days away from going to Africa for my last chance at life to take iboga.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've heard of people with last chance efforts with their psychological or addiction issues, and they just go to iboga and everything heals.
Yeah.
And so that was my last chance. And I found out about mercury poisoning 3 days before getting on that plane. And that's when my life changed. And I went into a total detoxification process. No more spiritual, even though I'm very spiritual now. I put that aside, and I realized, holy shit, after seeing my mercury results and seeing my Lyme test results and learning about all these physical ailments, I've been poisoned this whole time. This is not as spiritually complex as I'm making it out to me. I'm being poisoned every single day. I had mercury fillings.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then did you end up doing chelation?
Oh yeah. Yeah, but not first. Right? So I was in such bad shape that I would eat a piece of spinach and my belly would bloat a couple inches.
Yeah.
I would drink water and my belly would bloat. I couldn't eat food. I couldn't digest food. I was throwing up my meals. I was literally just a walking dead person. This is going to sound like I'm like making these symptoms up, but you know them.
People
Yeah.
listening to my podcast too, when I slowly started like dragging myself out of like death, I was like a Walking Dead person.
Yeah.
Like I looked at like that too, like
Yeah.
green and pale and like zombie-like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
dragging yourself around. So
Yes.
no, I get it.
I have a photo of me for my visa to go to Gabon. I was yellow. I
Yeah.
was literally yellow.
I used to be like,
Yeah.
I don't think I was yellow, but I wasn't a color makeup could match. It was like
Yeah.
greenish. It was greenish.
Yeah. So I was in such bad shape that there were so many secondary issues that were caused by the heavy metals,
Yeah.
by the mold, and by the Lyme that I couldn't just go after those culprits, if you will. I had to heal my mast cells. I had to heal my mucous membrane. I had to heal my gut, and I had to calm my nervous system down. I would never be able to handle like cilantro or EDTA or any of the chelators out there. It would have put me in a hospital.
Yeah.
Just like a NAC or like vitamin C would have set me in a 3-4 hour panic attack.
Yeah.
Sometimes multiple day panic attack.
I've been near that for sure. And my dad's been quite ill recently. And he's got like same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Although we haven't ruled mold was a big problem. There's some other things going on. And we ruled out heavy metals, but it's the same thing. Like your body can get to a point where you can't tolerate any of the treatments.
Yes.
And I think that's part of the reason I got stuck on the meat diet was because it was like, I can't take any supplements. Like I can't do anything. I'm just going to wait. And then slowly things kind of calm down. But keep going. I do want to
Yes.
get into like, so did you start with mast cell stabilization?
Absolutely. Yes. So I started with a very specific gut healing mast cell and binder protocol. So the gut healing portion is the slippery elm bark, the glutamine, the butyric acid. I was taking suppositories with probiotics in them. I was doing enemas with probiotics and bone broth. I was doing all different kinds of acacia fiber and all different kinds of probiotics and goat milk kefir. And I was literally taking 15 different gut healers in like one smoothie that we now call the gut healing smoothie in my company. Because it's just this like massive concoction of gut healing compounds that's incredible. And so I did that in conjunction with ketotifen.
Yeah.
And so ketotifen has been a game changer for like the success rate on that stuff is insane when you take it correctly. And I'm not a doctor and I'm not recommending anyone do this without a doctor, but ketotifen is a mast cell stabilizer. It's also an antihistamine. And when you take it at the dose that Klinghardt recommends, and Dr. Mark Clark, or actually Mark Clark is a pharmacist, not a doctor, it's 1 milligram 4 times a day, 20 minutes before meals. And then after 60 days, you double the dose to 2 milligrams 4 times a day. And after that 60, 70 day mark, it starts working miracles on for me and for my clients. And it just calms down the whole nervous system. It allows you to be able to tolerate foods again. It allows you to be able to eat different things, take different supplements. And then binders were the magic for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was,
Yeah, me too.
cholestyramine, all the, good binders as well. But I was taking like Enteros gel and microsilica and bamboo charcoal and citrus pectin and like 7-8 different binders all in this one big drink that I would blend, shake up and drink in the morning. And so I was basically grabbing all the toxins that were floating around the gut that were destroying my gut lining.
Yeah.
I was healing the gut lining, and I was telling the mast cells to go quiet, calm down. It's not time. Like you don't have to react to spinach. Right?
Yeah.
You don't have to react
to water.
to water.
Yeah.
Right? And then I went deep into parasite cleansing and released hundreds of worms. I have photos of hundreds of worms. Right?
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, I did like my journey was incredibly ill, and then I went the dietary route and I calmed almost all of my symptoms, really all of my symptoms down for a period of time by just eating meat, and was like, whoa, this is amazing. Got off all the medications. Everything was great. And then I moved into a couple of fairly moldy places, not visible mold, but behind the drywall, and deteriorated brutally, really rapidly. So I think I was in a state where like I was fine, but any exposure was not going to be good, which was why I couldn't eat a carrot, couldn't have spinach. I was like, I could do meat, unaged meat. And that was about it. And then mold put me over the edge. And then I was connected with Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, who worked with someone who went overseas and came back and had parasites and was really sick, and learned a bunch about parasites. Didn't realize that they're rampant and that it's just as bad here as it is anywhere else. We're just told that everyone here is clean, which isn't true, and we can't test for them properly.
No.
How did you even find out you had parasites in the first place?
Well, funnily enough, I did a parasite stool test and it came back that that I didn't have parasites.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't really know about this. My gut is destroyed.
Yeah.
And I started doing essential oil, not recommending this, essential oil suppositories.
Oh my gosh.
So I would make a suppository.
That's gotta hurt, no?
No, I mean, the slight burn. Depends what you use. I was using garlic.
Okay.
Garlic essential oil is the smelliest thing you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
I was clearing hot yoga classes. Like people would literally run away from me at hot yoga classes.
I believe that.
Yeah, all right. And so, but the reason I was doing them was because after 3 days of doing them, I released a roundworm. It would look like it was an earthworm. I have a photo of it. And when that came out of me, my entire paradigm changed.
Yeah, it would.
Yes.
You'd be like, okay, well, that's probably not making me feel great.
That was the death that was in me.
Yeah.
That was death. And I finally had like an actual object to project onto, and like, that's the reason, you know? Now, granted, of course, that's not the only reason, but.
Had you done a lot? Do you know where you picked them up? Had you done a lot of traveling or anything overseas, or do you think this was from just natural
I think
New York
overseas
habitat?
Overseas made it worse, but I will tell you, now I'm 10 years removed from illness.
Yeah.
It happens here.
Yeah.
It happens here. It happens in restaurants. It happens with animals. It happens because of door handles, toilet seats. There's parasite eggs everywhere. It's on fruit. It's on all different kinds of foods. Pork. I don't eat pork anymore. An absolute no-no for me. And I don't eat fish. You know, I don't eat fish. I mostly eat meat. I subscribe to a similar diet. I also eat berries, meat, butter, eggs, and olive oil. That's basically all I eat.
Okay.
Right? And that's how I perform at my absolute best.
I started, not to sidetrack you, so I started eating a few other things because I haven't been able to tolerate like blueberries, for instance. I tried in 2020, I think it was 2020, and like it wasn't terrible, but after 2 or 3 weeks, I was like, oh, I cannot do this. And I started getting arthritis again. And then I had a salad at one point, and it wasn't like this huge salad. It was basically lettuce, maybe a year later, and I was out for like 2 weeks. I was like, okay. But then after mold treatment and parasite treatment, I was like, maybe I'm less sensitive. So I started incorporating in like pan-fried arugula with tallow. So like that was pretty easy. But I still think after doing that for, it's been like a number of months, I think I still feel best just eating meat.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense, right? Because of all the inflammatory compounds.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, the roundworm came out and I said, I'm going all into this. And I released hundreds of worms, hundreds. There's something called a ropeworm, which is, I guess, mainstream science will just say that it's your intestinal lining. But I've been doing this for 10 years, 9 years. I've had thousands of clients. I've seen a lot. This is, in my very strong, firm opinion, is not intestinal lining. This is a type of parasite that is not tested. It's not been scientifically proven or you know, understood what it is. But there's also tapeworms, there's roundworms, there's you know, there's liver flukes, and these things come out when you do the right parasite cleanse, not the thing that you go to CVS and you buy like wormwood and this and that. You got to do it correctly, and the correct way to do it, in my opinion, not medically speaking, I'm not a doctor, is the suppositories done correctly with like a mimosa, which Mimosa pudica, and also there's some liposomal formations. I also really like ivermectin and fenbendazole. Did you end up taking that?
Yeah, I did. The testing, so I did more of a, well, so I got tested and then treated what they found. And I'm fully aware that like, depending on the sample you send in, maybe that doesn't show up in that sample, or maybe they're not even testing for the right one. So that's not necessarily the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust parasite testing at all.
Yeah.
After being tested negative for like 10 years. And then my doctor ended up sending a stool sample to Africa and to a university in Africa, and an old school parasitologist that like just looks at the sample under a microscope was like, oh yeah, you have all these things.
Of course, there's eggs all
like,
over. Yeah.
What? So we're running samples through computers and looking at PCR testing, and everyone's just showing up negative because our testing sucks. That's really like futuristic of us. Great. Yeah. Amazing. So anyway, so I did take, I don't know if I did ivermectin in like the right dose or anything. I did mebendazole.
Menbendazole, yeah.
Mebendazole. That one was one of them. And then H. pylori, I think, was what was causing me the majority of my issues.
Yeah.
And I had tested positive actually at low levels for that for a long time. But because I had no classic symptoms, they were just like, well, ignore it, even though I couldn't eat anything.
Yeah.
And then eventually, after I took prednisone after I had an allergic reaction one time because I couldn't, it was an anaphylactic reaction. My body wouldn't calm down. So I was on prednisone for about a week. And after that, the H. pylori like shot up. And then I had all the classic like burning symptoms. It was like, I think I'm going to die.
Wow.
And so then I took antibiotics for that. That made a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and then it was mebendazole, and I think that was the main one for parasites.
Yeah, that's the human approved one. Some people use fenbendazole, which is for animals, because it's just hard to find a lot of this stuff through mainstream medicine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a powerful one.
And it wasn't even bad. That was the thing. Like, I've been so avoidant of antibiotics and medications since I stopped taking medications like 10 years ago. I was like, well, antibiotics, maybe that's what's made me sick. I'm going to avoid any type of pharmaceutical period unless I feel like I'm about to die. And I finally got to that point and was like, okay, give me the antibiotics.
Yes.
Like, I think I'm about to die.
I had the same paradigm. Yeah. I had to shift and realize.
I had to shift too, for sure. And then the treatment I experienced anyway wasn't this horrifying treatment I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought if I take something, especially a pharmaceutical, I'm going to feel terrible and it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And the H. pylori treatment hurt a little bit, but the parasite treatment didn't hurt at all.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, now I feel better.
And that's probably because you were doing this anti-inflammatory diet. If people off the street were to do it and they don't have their drainage pathways open and they have leaky gut and they're eating inflammatory foods, I think it'll hurt. It hurts.
Oh,
you know?
really?
Yeah.
I'd also been taking cholestyramine periodically for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
And wasn't sick from mold anymore or anything.
And then you're also with the cholestyramine, you're grabbing onto all of the die-off, because when parasites die, they release gas.
And I actually was taking a binder at the same time.
Yeah.
For fear of
the
die-off. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's key information.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Good
Don't
point.
jump straight to doing a parasite cleanse. Seriously, like, unless you're in peak health, because when they die, they release ammonia and other gases. And they also screw with your chemicals, right?
I wonder if the binder is what avoided that too. Because I was worried. I was like, I think this is going to be awful. And it wasn't.
Yeah. Cholestyramine is excellent.
What's really interesting about the human cell is that it's a problem.
There are forces behind the scenes that are moving you. You have no idea what they are.
You'll find nihilists always break things down to their parts. It's just electric currents going through some matter. That's what thoughts are, right?
The secret to being miserable is to have the leisure to bother about whether you're happy or not.
The West is struggling with issues around what it is to lead a meaningful life. It is the sense of being connected to something larger than oneself.
We tell a bit of a story about ourselves. If I tell myself a good story, it's going to change me. If I tell myself a bad story, it's going to change me.
So what's the story? The bigger dragon you confront, the more potential will be released within you. If you really threw yourself into the fray, like wholeheartedly, who knows who you could become?
So you did mast cell stabilization, then tackled parasites?
Yeah, and there was the mast cells, the gut healing, the binders, all in this 1 6-month phase that was life-changing. Like, I came back to life, basically. I stopped having panic attacks in those 6 months. I didn't even get rid of any heavy metals. I didn't address the mold. I didn't address the Lyme. And I was actually, like, functional.
That was just, and you think ketotifen. I tried ketotifen, but not very much.
Try it right?
I tried the dose you told me to, but I think I took one and it made me anxious, and I was like, I don't want to do it. Usually.
The first couple weeks, it gives a little bit of a creepy, weird feeling,
that.
And you might feel really tired. Sometimes you can get anxious and tired at the same time. That 2-week period of time is an investment. Once that 2-week time is done, there is, I'm not saying this for everyone, but like 95 out of 100 people will have zero symptoms whatsoever from the ketotifen. It's non-toxic, non-addictive. So it's that first couple of weeks that are really difficult for people. And I had to just push through. I was dying. So I was just like, I don't care how I feel.
Yeah.
And I slept through the first 2 weeks, and I just slept and slept and slept. And then I woke up and I was like, I was able to eat again. I wasn't throwing up anymore.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it was very weird dreams and weird thoughts, and it was a weird feeling. So I could understand why you quit.
Okay.
Because but you got to just
Yeah,
push
stick to
through
it. Yeah, I know.
yeah, yeah,
I will at some point.
yeah,
Okay. So parasites,
yeah.
then what?
So yeah, so it was actually the binders, the gut healing, all of that. Then I started to tackle the parasites, and I was taking liposomal formulas. I was doing rectal suppositories. I was doing coffee enemas with parasite herbs, which is a lot of fun. And because by the way, right, when you introduce things rectally, basically it enters your blood via the portal vein and crosses the blood-brain barrier when you take a suppository. So you're systemically killing parasites with this stuff. And I had to because I was so dead that oral things weren't working in the same way.
Yeah.
I had to hit things systemically. So I mean that's like, IVs can do that as well, but suppository is good. So anyway,
How did you figure out what to use? Because I know, like, I've talked about parasites a little bit on the internet since my experience, but I did the pharmaceutical route. People are buying. There's so many things. I'm getting targeted them for like ads on Facebook.
yeah.
Facebook knows what I want to see, or Meta knows what I want to see. But like, how do you know what a legit parasite cleanse is, as opposed to, taking one of the scams on the internet?
And by the way, on the other scams, there's 2 different companies that AI'd my voice because I'm like known as the parasite guy on Instagram. They AI'd my voice and they're having me talk about their product, but it's totally AI, which is crazy side tangent.
Yeah,
there, right?
I know. People have to be aware of that. It's happening it's happening everywhere.
And it looks pretty decent too.
Yeah.
Like it's like, well, is that me? No, I don't remember talking about that,
Ooh.
So anyway, we shut them down. So parasites, well, I was like an alchemist. I just tinkered. My life was on the line. There was very few people who I thought could understand what I was going through. And so I had a couple doctors I was talking to. I had another guy who had gone really, really deep with detox and he had a blog. And he's disappeared off the face of the earth. I don't know where he went, but but I was kind of just learning from all these different people and tinkering and exploring and experimenting and, obviously being as safe as I can and starting with really, really low dose of everything. But I was a guinea pig.
So why do coffee enemas actually do something?
Oh yeah.
That
You never done one?
No.
You have to do that.
I've gone pretty far out there.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about doing like FMT way before people were talking about doing FMT and things.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't get into the coffee
It
enemas.
makes you feel amazing.
Why? Is that just caffeine though that you're absorbing?
It's different. Yeah, it's different. So by the way, I have like super, super wealthy clients who you'd never expect who are doing coffee enemas, who are anti anything like biohacking and they're like doing coffee enemas 4 times a week. So it's
what does it do other than give you like, I can see how it would give you an up just from absorbing caffeine. What does it do other than that?
It stimulates glutathione production.
Oh.
Okay. So it also, when you hold the enema, the coffee enema, it stimulates glutathione production. It also strengthens your peristalsis. So it actually is going to improve your bowel movements. If you just do water enemas, it doesn't have the same effect. The coffee has this effect of stimulating the peristalsis and strengthening it. You also...
I suppose that's what happens when you drink coffee, right?
Yes,
Kinda.
but it's totally different because coffee is acidic. And so when you take the acidic coffee in and it gets absorbed via the small intestine and the stomach, you get a massive jitter and you pull from the adrenals. Coffee rectally has a totally different effect. It does not give you the jitters, especially when you add a little salt to it. All right. Yeah.
Okay. You're pretty good at selling this. I've got to admit.
You have to do it. You have to try it. Like all the people watching should try it. It's such an amazing therapy. It clears your brain. It makes you feel alert. It helps with your liver, like healing the liver and liver detoxification. And you can also do really cool things to the coffee enema. You can put herbs in it. You can do different things. There's different you can make, ozone coffee enema, for instance, or other oxidative treatments that kill parasites, kill viruses, kill Lyme disease. Right via the portal vein into the liver, which is...
Okay, what is this portal vein? I
It's
don't think I've heard of the portal vein either.
It's basically an artery or a vein that connects your liver to the rest of your body and your blood and your brain. So it's like when you take things rectally, it's supercharged. Taking an herb orally versus taking an herb rectally is a completely different experience.
I mean, I do believe that.
Yeah.
Like that does make sense to me. And you can take, like, for people who are skeptical and listening, there's a number of medications that you can take, especially for babies or children,
Exactly.
that you can take rectally, and it's absorbed, and it's like kind of straight into the blood as opposed to being digested.
That's it.
So
The acids.
it is a way to take things.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that you have to do this. I'm just saying this was how I resurrected myself.
Yeah.
From the dead.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Okay. So ketotifen, or like mast cell stabilizing.
Yeah.
Then you tackled the parasites.
Yes. Then I did a lot of liver cleansing. So liver purging. Have you ever done a liver purge, like Andreas Moritz purge?
No.
So it's basically this thing in mainstream. I know a lot, maybe some of your people are mainstream, and
I doubt it at this point.
Very scientifically oriented, they probably will slam me, and that's okay. I'm okay. I'm used to that. But so there's not a lot of true like scientific studies on these like liver stones and gallstones, but I've seen enough. I've been around the block. I've seen what happens when I do these liver cleanses. The mainstream science will say that it's the olive oil that like congeals and turns into these green stones. I just don't believe it. I just don't buy that. I've had hundreds and hundreds of clients have life-changing experience from liver cleansing, and my own journey as well proved it. And I released all of these green liver stones and gallstones during my liver purge. Okay, so I would use the Andreas Moritz liver purge. This was a genius doctor, vibrating at such a high level, filled with light. He's passed on now, but he was radiating with light. This guy, you can look at him, and his thing was the liver is the most important organ in the body, and you have to purify and purge the liver because it's taking the biggest burden from diet, from toxins, from our lifestyle.
Yeah, can you explain to people who don't know? Like, so I learned a little bit about this once I started binders, and then people were kind of explaining like how you detoxify. But so if you get exposed to like mold, for example, if you get exposed to mold, it's full of mycotoxins. The mycotoxins that you inhale and everything that get into your blood, they're stored in fat tissue. And in order to get them out of fat tissue, they go through your liver, right? And then into bile, and then you excrete that. And if your liver is overwhelmed, like a couple of things happen. One, your fat won't release stored toxins. So then you're just full of them.
Yep.
And that's more well known in literature, right? Mm-hmm. About like what happens when people get poisoned by something and like how it goes through the liver into bile.
And fatty liver is talked about commonly.
Yeah.
Which is a similar, but basically, yes, it's you become sluggish because your liver cannot purify your blood anymore. It's like an oil filter in your car. If you have an oil filter that's backed up for years and years and years, your oil in your you're going to burn through gasoline. Everything is going to get like sludgy. That's the same thing that happens to our blood. The blood gets very thick and sludgy when someone's liver is not functioning properly, when there's all kinds of different fatty deposits and toxins stored in there, and it doesn't have enough breathing room, doesn't have enough space to do its job. It's just overwhelmed.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So I've had so much blood work over the years, and I know after a number of years of only eating meat, I remember people commenting. Usually, this was when I got sick from mold. Actually, I got sick from mold, and I did EBU, which is like a blood filter thing, or ozone, and so you can like clearly see your blood. And people have commented, not to boast about this, but that my blood looks good or thinner than what they're seeing, but not in a bad way. And I remember at that time being surprised that you could visually see the difference between people's blood.
Yeah.
That seems not great. If you're like, oh, you have thick blood, that's not good.
No, it's not.
So you think that's just from not being able to detoxify properly and then toxins build up or something?
I think viral load also thickens the blood. I think like spirochetes and viruses and different pathogens thicken the blood. I think diet thickens the blood. One thing that changed my life was getting really deep with diet, and you did it yourself. And with just going on meat, I started diving really deep into Korean 8 body types, which is this theory that basically there's 8 different body types and everyone requires a different diet. But I noticed, and my body type is hepatonia, and we thrive on meat, right? And I noticed when I would eat certain foods, I felt sluggish, I felt thick, I felt acidic, like I could feel acidity in my saliva almost from certain foods. And so I do think that diet plays a huge role in blood as well. In how someone,
that makes sense.
The inflammation inside the blood. And if people are eating like when I was a vegan, I was eating tons of nuts, seeds, beans, grains, all of the high lectin foods.
Yeah.
They were inflaming the crap out of me.
Yeah.
You know, and making me super sick. And here I was thinking I was doing something healthy.
So how did you do?
How did I
So are castor oil
Really
packs and
good.
castor oils? That's the thing. I had someone else talk about castor oil packs, and I was like, I don't get it. I didn't get
Yeah.
too far into it on the podcast. But it was like, how can you can put castor oil on yourself,
Yeah.
and then it absorbs through your skin?
Yes. This is not the highest, in my opinion, it's not the number one technique. It's a good additional technique. And we do even more fringe things. Are we going to get banned on YouTube for this?
No, I've done worse probably.
All right. So I sometimes we use DMSO with the castor
Yeah.
oil packs because the DMSO will actually shoot the castor oil deeper
Interesting.
through the skin and cross the blood-brain barrier.
Okay, DMSO. We need to pause and
Yeah.
explain what that is.
'Kay.
So I think I actually learned about. No, I'd seen it online, but then Dad bought some because he's been really sick. So he's just like, I don't try whatever. And my mom started using it because she had a scar she was using it on, and it completely smoothed out her skin.
Mhm.
Like, what? I was like, what's going on with your face? Are you wearing makeup? Like, what's happening? She's like, no, I've been putting DMSO on. I was like, is that okay? Like, what are you doing? And then I tried it, and I'm like weirdly sensitive to sulfur things. So I do not do that. That did not make me feel good.
Did you use a cream or what did you do?
No, like the actual liquid.
But it must have been diluted with
Diluted,
something.
yeah.
Okay. Yes. So DMSO is a solvent. You never want to put it directly on the skin. Dimethyl sulfoxide.
I should tell
It
my
will
mom
burn.
that.
We'll get a chemical burn at 99% potency, and I've done it before. As I said, I'm a guinea pig. I've
Yeah,
made all the
yeah, yeah.
mistakes. You will chemically burn yourself when it's diluted with castor oil, or if it's diluted in other carrier oils or creams.
Wow.
It's really powerful, and it basically whatever it touches, whatever it's connected with, whether it's an herb or a drug. I even know there's drug addicts who use drugs with DMSO and put it on their skin to get high.
Wow.
Right? Just like some drug addicts use things rectally.
Yeah.
Drug addicts are efficient. Right?
Yeah.
They know how to get the most out of the drug.
Yeah.
And sometimes they can use DMSO, sometimes they can use rectal, via rectal. And I've heard direct stories because I used to work with drug addicts at a caddy yard. There was all kind of heroin addicts and they would tell me these crazy things. Long story short, I go into all these different tangents here, but DMSO is going to essentially shoot whatever you bring it with deeper into the skin and cross the blood-brain barrier. And it's going to penetrate deeper.
You can tell that because when you put it on your skin, so this wasn't the 99%.
Yeah.
This was like super, super, super watered down. But I could taste it. So like you put it on your skin and then you can taste it. And it's like, whoa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So castor oil is good. The castor oil liver packs are good. But what we like is something called Zen Cleanse Forgive. It's a enzyme-based liver cleanse. And you consume nothing but enzymes for about 24 hours. And you purge the liver the night. And Gary Brecka recommends these products as well. And certain Dana White and raves about these products too. They're legit. I know the owner. And you drink olive oil with lemon at night, and that forces the liver to basically punch out all of the stones that it's carrying, or sometimes the gallbladder can be holding stones.
And the mainstream explanation for this is that the olive oil
It's the
turns
olive
into
oil
the
like
stones.
congealed.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't
Not
make
that fast.
any sense.
Like how fast do the stones come out?
Well, they come out the next morning.
Yeah, well then that doesn't.
But I've also
make
tried
sense.
every experiment of mixing the olive oil, letting it sit for weeks at a time. I've tried to figure out mixing it with food, mixing it with different fibers. I've never been able to get
form into
a
stone.
green stone. I've
Yeah.
never been able to do that.
Yeah.
Never.
Wow.
And then also the Moritz cleanse. So we use both. We use the Andreas Moritz cleanse. We use the Zen Cleanse liver. The Moritz cleanse is fantastic. And it's a preparation phase for about 3-4 days. And then you do olive oil and olive oil and lemon at night.
And then are you just in the bathroom for like a day?
No, you go right in the bed. You go right on the bed and you lay on your side. And the next morning you just punch out these stones in a colander.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then how do you feel after that?
Lighter.
Whoa.
Lighter. Another thing that I have in my head, and none of this is scientific evidence. It's just I'm just a detox dude. All right. But the thing that I have is I was drinking ayahuasca with a very well-known holistic psychiatrist. He's very, very well known. He's been on Rogan. He's been all over the place. and I was drinking ayahuasca with him, and he was releasing liver stones just drinking ayahuasca. Big gallstones, this big, like a golf ball. No olive oil, no lemon, no liver flushing, because ayahuasca purifies the body sometimes. So that was another aha moment for me, you know? Okay, there's something here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And another, you know, clue in the direction that it's not olive oil.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow, that's weird. So, okay, back to castor oil. I just have one more question about that. Why does that even do anything? What does it do? What is castor oil?
From my understanding, and it's not that thorough, there's ricin. It's like a slightly toxic compound that's in the castor oil. When you consume it orally, it's very, very toxic to parasites. Like parasites I've seen on a microscope when you drop a drop of castor oil, and parasite eggs and parasites just like literally run away or die. They just get eviscerated. So it's a good parasite cleanse done in the right dose. And then on the skin, it has a totally different effect, you know, but I don't actually understand it, to be honest with you.
Okay, I'll have to ask. I think it was Ben Lynch on my podcast. This was when I still wasn't feeling very good from mold. So I was like, okay, how do I feel better? And he was like, you need castor oil packs. And then I never did one.
Yeah. They're easy. They're
I
really
did other
easy.
things, but not that. Yeah. Okay. So then you cleanse the liver. Then what?
Then we move to, sometimes people have a very intense viral load or mold toxicity. So we address that.
So it's like Epstein-Barr and stuff?
Epstein-Barr and Lyme and you know, and all of this stuff that's plaguing people. This stuff is nasty. You know, it's really hard. And you know, you could see Chris Williamson's making a bunch of videos recently about what he's going through. You know, he's dealing with all kinds of viruses and pathogens and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's pretty full on.
That's also what happens when your immune system is dampened, right?
Yes.
Because I know from my blood work, from my dad's blood work, like when he got really sick over the summer, this was after a couple of mold exposures, his Epstein-Barr numbers went through the roof.
Yes.
And I was like, well, that also can't be making you feel good. But then it was like kind of a whole immune system overload.
Yeah.
And then I've had Lyme, and I've never done anything other than like what I've been doing. I don't know how much it's been actually plaguing me. I don't know about Epstein-Barr numbers, but that's pretty common for people whose immune systems are just overrun, right?
They're all these organisms are opportunistic.
And a lot of people are exposed to these viruses anyway, but they don't end up with a like disease from them.
Totally.
They can just handle it. And then when you get shut down, you start getting overrun with parasites, mold, whatever touches you, basically.
Yeah, I think it's once people have a certain level of stress, trauma, tension, you know, and that all this, like the body just shuts down. You know, like my wife is like, she can handle anything. You know, like she probably has certain viruses or this or that or certain parasites, but it doesn't faze her.
Yeah.
It literally just doesn't faze her. Meanwhile, me, you know, I'm very, very sensitive, and I had a huge health collapse, so I'll always be sensitive.
Do you think, like, getting back, so you had mercury filling, so obviously that's going to poison you.
And I ate tuna fish.
Like a lot?
I ate tuna like once a week during my
That's enough
Jiu-Jitsu
to
days.
matter?
Oh my God. Yeah.
What?
Absolutely. No one should be eating tuna fish. No one should be eating tuna fish. Do you eat tuna?
I mean, I've only been eating meat for like 8 years, but I ate tuna before that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about heavy metal testing? Do you think it's accurate, or is it? I mean, your test came back high, right?
Yes. I had an HTMA hair test, came back extremely off the charts. The guy who ran the test called me. I was like, dude, how are you even alive? But sometimes, because for instance, the test I did 2 months later did not show the same levels because it's showing what you're excreting through the hair. So it can be majorly flawed.
Yeah, so if you're overrun and you're not detoxing, then it's not showing up. That's the problem with mold urine tests too.
Yes.
Is if your body's overrun and you're not peeing it out, it doesn't show up.
Exactly.
So those are they're iffy.
100%. All of the testing has major, just flaws. All of the testing can only do so much.
But then are people like, if people are chronically ill, maybe not the average person, but if they're chronically ill and there's really no explanation, then do you just recommend that they kind of go through these lists of things and treat all of them and just assume that there's a problem there?
That's how we do it. When we also like tests, like we do like seeing certain Lyme tests and certain MTHFR, because that's a very real thing too. the thyroid is I had severe hypothyroid in conjunction with all of this.
Yeah.
That's the emotional gland. So that's why I was having so many panic attacks and unable to catch my
The
emotions.
what gland? Emotional?
Thyroid is labeled the emotional
Oh,
gland.
I thought this was a separate thing. And I was like, what?
No.
That isn't a thing.
Yeah. So that when that's out of whack, people are very emotional, very emotionally unstable when you have severe hypothyroidism like I did. So, so that we need to see tests for that too. But in my opinion, when someone is really, really sick, I'm like, just do the solution and see how you feel.
Because the solution isn't that bad.
Solution is not that bad. The solution is helpful regardless of what your problem is, because it's just helping an organ function better, or it's killing pathogens. So I always what I did to get well is I just said, give me the solution. I'm going to do the solution. I'm going to see how I feel.
Yeah.
And I learned about my body that way. That's not necessarily scientific.
I completely agree with that though. Like if testing worked, we wouldn't all be chronically ill. So
yeah,
like I agree.
You'd have these wealthy people who knew exactly what was wrong with them and how to solve it. It's not the case. They go years and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and travel the world and see doctor after doctor after doctor and still have no progress.
Yeah, so there's a flaw in our testing.
There's a flaw.
No, I agree.
So then, we work with different herbs. There's different Lyme herbs. There's different mold herbs. We use glutathione nebulizers, glutathione nasal spray for people who have mold. Those are fantastic,
How do you feel about the topical ones?
Love it.
Yeah?
And melatonin topically. Love it. Melatonin, glutathione, insanely powerful for people with mold and Lyme disease.
And melatonin for helping sleep specifically, or something
Those
else?
are the two master antioxidants, and they protect.
Melatonin.
Yeah, melatonin and glutathione. You got to check out a guy named Dr. John Lawrence. He wrote a book called The Melatonin Miracle.
Okay, I've heard of that book.
Yeah, and he's in Florida. He's a genius.
Is he the one that says that we've been dosing too high and to take a low dose?
With melatonin?
Or
no? He's the opposite.
Really?
John has products that have 50, 75, 100, 150 milligrams of melatonin.
Okay.
Right? And in his book, from what I read, he's explaining that when you take it, exogenously, it doesn't affect your ability to produce it. Right? So that helped me tremendously.
And did you do
I did everything. I did skin cream. I did it rectally. I did it liposomally, and I mixed the two together. Melatonin.
I feel like it makes me horrifyingly groggy and anxious in the morning.
That passes. I'm
hearing that a lot.
You're not making it past the crucible, and you're giving up on really good treatments.
Usually, if something goes badly, I'm like, nope.
I know.
Like eating a food that doesn't go well. I'm like, okay, I'll just stop eating it.
I think food, you have a right to do that. I think treatments sometimes it's
I get that.
Yeah.
I talked to. I don't know how you feel about this, but Dave Asprey's really into itraconazole for mold exposures. Like if you're still unbelievably sensitive to mold after you've been out of mold and you've taken binders and all these things, then maybe you need an actual antifungal. That's his opinion anyway.
Yeah.
And he keeps telling me about it. And I'm like, I don't know. I took that and it made me feel bad. So I stopped. And he's like, yeah, that's because you need it. I was like, yeah, well, I understand that in theory, but it's kind of like, I think I learned a lot about Herc's reactions. When I was really sick before I got to the meat diet, I was trying to do a gut healing protocol without getting as restrictive in my diet as I needed to be. So I was doing it kind of like what someone who doesn't know what they're doing does, which was overdosing on probably the wrong probiotic and stuff like that. And I was getting so sick and so insane. And I remember going online and reading people being like, yeah, that's the Herc's reaction. Like that's just die off. And then eventually you'll feel better. Just keep going. And I did keep going at one point and got worse and worse and worse and worse. And eventually was like, well, how do you tell the difference between a Herc's reaction or something that's making you feel bad?
Yes.
And then just I did anything that made me feel bad was just not good. that's how I got
No,
there.
there's wisdom in that. And then it might have, a flaw in that model, right? At some point, if there's something that creates instability, maybe it's really, really good for you.
Yeah,
but
fair.
it's really tricky. No, it's really tricky.
Well, and I do understand like the ketotifen thing, the mast cell stabilizing theory is a good one. I like that quite a bit. I'm thinking part of the reason my body calmed down and why I can tolerate some other foods now, even though I think I'm still sticking with the meat diet.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I just lived in a bubble for so long and like eliminated so many variables, like my air is hyper clean. And then I only ate meat, and then I wasn't on any medication. And then I took a binder. It just like I wasn't exposed to anything that could cause inflammatory reactions for years by just basically living in a bubble. It was like, did I maybe accidentally calm down some mast cells just by not exposing them to anything that was causing inflammatory reactions? And then they just kind of recovered. Because mast cells train new mast cells. That's what I've read about anyway, that they keep, the reason ketotifen works is because you calm them down for long enough that the new ones aren't trained to have the same inflammatory response.
Yes. So yeah, after, we work on the viruses and the pathogens, then at that final stage, and this is how it was for me as well, the final stage, which could be 6 months later, 4 to 6 months later, then I was chelating heavy metals. And then my lucidity went to a whole other dimension when I started getting rid of the heavy metals. And that's a big can of worms there. There's so many different things to take and so many different things to do. For me, my best friends are wheatgrass and cilantro.
So cilantro, just the plant.
Yeah. Juice, the fresh juice of cilantro is a superfood. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
I do like cilantro.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful. Why does that work? Like how does it work?
It basically signals to the cell to kick out the heavy metal. So a chelator is essentially a compound that tells the cell to kick out the mercury, the aluminum, whatever it is, gadolinium, things that could be in people's cell. The cell is holding on to it because it doesn't have enough minerals. So when a cell doesn't have enough minerals, instead of taking a selenium, like a healthy cell, it just grabs onto the mercury because there's mercury floating around in the blood. Right? And then you have a cell that's holding on to a heavy metal, and it will be sick for the rest of its life.
That's why you need chelation therapy?
That's why you need chelation.
Yikes.
You have to actually go into the cell and kick out the heavy metals. Otherwise, you have sick cells. And it's a deep process, and a lot of people skip it or they don't believe in it, but it's so important on the holistic health journey.
Well, it's silly people don't believe in that out of everything we've talked about, because mercury poisoning is something everyone's heard of.
Yeah, Mad Hatter and all of that. Yeah.
Do you also tell people after they go through what you said, mast cells, parasites, liver, viral load, it's 4 things.
And chelation, yeah.
And chelation.
At the end,
do you tell everyone to do the chelation anyway?
Hell yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
is that
some
bad
form
for
of
people
it.
say,
some form of it.
Even the more natural one. Wheatgrass.
Even if it's just wheatgrass. Hey, drink wheatgrass 4 times a week for a year. Watch how your life changes.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the most basic form. We have all kinds of crazy stuff we do with, as you know, up the bum, right?
Yeah.
There's different EDTA suppositories and there's different compounds. There's things called emeramide, OSR, which is super powerful mercury chelator. There's spirulina in high doses, chlorella in high doses. There's silica in high doses, which is going to help with the aluminum. So the wheatgrass is like the most basic. But everyone should drink wheatgrass, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a weird reaction to it. So I did, for part of the SIRS treatment, is a nasal spray, because you can get a swab and it tests to see if you have something called Marcons, which is basically,
treatment-resistant bacteria,
in your nose.
Yeah.
And so I had that, which is fairly common with SIRS, and started the EDTA spray, and it was so strange. It was EDTA and silver, and... was there something else? I think it was just the EDTA.
Was it the
Marcons
1 and 2? Was it 2 blue bottles that you were taking?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just one, and it was mixed together. So I think it was just EDTA and silver. So it's supposed to be like pretty soft. But what was interesting was all my mold toxicity symptoms came back when I started it. So I hadn't been exposed to mold, but I started taking it. And the second day I thought I was having an allergic reaction to something, because I was like, what is happening? And I had like one side of my body go weak, and I was like limping around. I had like neurological pain everywhere, and I was like, whoa, this is like when I got really sick in Miami, but it's just from, I guess, in theory, breaking down
biofilms,
the biofilms in my nose and being re-exposed to that poison kind of.
And the EDTA pulling out metals out of your brain.
Yeah, I knew. This is why I brought it up.
Yes.
I was like, he's going to.
Oh, for sure. That EDTA is pulling metals out of your brain.
Okay, here's a metal question. I have a hip and ankle replacement.
Okay.
This is probably why I've given up on like metal. So that's titanium. But like,
titanium is generally okay.
I mean, it's better than mercury.
There's ones that I believe they have some sort of nickel or chromium. There's some compound, nickel or cobalt or something that that can get very toxic. The titanium ones, from all I learned from Dr. Klinghardt and a couple other doctors, are very, very good, like the best.
Well, I hope so, because that's what everyone's getting put in them now.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's pretty benign, and it's not going to leach.
you
Yeah.
have to say that, though. Otherwise, I mean, there's no other solution.
Well, yeah, I
Unless
mean,
Elon
right?
comes
Would you
up
get
with a
him
new
removed?
foot or
Yeah,
something.
I know. No, but I wouldn't. I'm not just saying that.
Okay.
It is truly like when people are really scared of heavy metals, the general thing as a company wide and from what I've learned from really amazing doctors is just like, don't alter that. Don't change that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so people do a gentle chelation, or if you actually do testing and find something insane like your Mercury story, then you're like,
Yes,
go
and we
do
didn't
the-
finish the testing. So there's testing. There's hair test, which has its flaws. There's a urine test, which if you don't take a oral chelator, is completely flawed, because heavy metals do not get stored in your. They leave the blood. They go to tissues and organs. So if you're peeing, you're just seeing recent exposure. Then you have an oral chelation challenge test to get accurate tests. That could be dangerous. Someone like you would take a 24-hour chelator, you would feel terrible potentially, or it could really fuck you up. I mean, so it's not a good test for a lot of people. And then there's something called an oligoscan, which uses like a light device to measure in your hand. But every single device and test has flaws, but you can get a general understanding. There's also like Quicksilver has a Mercury tri test and all this stuff.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that.
You can get general understanding, but my vision is everyone has metals. Everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what
I could probably get behind that.
And it's
So-
not just convenient for my business model.
No, but
Yeah.
but just like part of the protocol is just treating that, even if it's a gentle version, because you just assume
Exactly.
everyone's exposed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
And
So then
there's
is that it?
No. Well, there's spiritual, emotional components.
Yeah, okay.
For sure. A spiritual, emotional, and trauma, stress, tension, and all different kinds of things that, can be messing the vehicle up, because I mean, that's a huge subject, but I don't know how far down that rabbit hole
that's a
you
huge
wanna-
subject on its
Yeah.
own. If you had to like blame one thing, I mean, I guess for you it was Mercury that really put you over the edge.
Mhm.
But like for the average client, I guess you see, is there a pattern you see with all of them? And like I've gone down the trauma route a bunch, but I also assume everybody has stress.
Mhm.
So you can't just be like, well, that's the problem, because we have new chronic illnesses that weren't around, at least in the numbers we see them,
Yeah.
40 or 50 or 60 years ago or 100 years ago. And people were definitely not less stressed then, you would think, because they'd have to deal with like siblings dying and like actual death and wars and stuff.
I have a theory about this.
Okay.
So there's a gentleman named Samuel Sagan, Dr. Samuel Sagan. He's passed on now. He's the founder of the Clair Vision School. And he described this something called astrality. Okay. And so the opposite of astrality is like the etheric. And to explain it briefly, you have the etheric, which is the human body, the immediate surroundings, the trees, the nature, the ocean, just your immediate surroundings. We used to navigate the world through a compass, or sailors would look at the sky and the clouds and they would understand what's going on because they had a direct relationship to their etheric environment, their chi, their immediate surroundings. Does that make sense so far?
Yes. Like physical surroundings?
Physical surroundings and the relationship to it, right? So like, for instance, I can't get anywhere without a GPS. That's not how times used to be. There used to be people would wake up, they'd milk the cows, they'd have an etheric experience with their environment.
See. Okay.
Now everything is astral, digital, and we're being slapped with this digital energy, and it's frying the nervous system. And this is I've seen this in my own life. And so when we talk about stress, trauma, tension, all of that, really what I see is that people are fried with digital energy. Their nervous system is responding as if it's right in their face, like they're being slapped by it. Their nervous system responds in a certain way, and it threatens the system, and it creates a level of fight or flight, and everything is astral. People are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
The phones, everything. And I think it's I don't think the body has caught up to it.
Yeah. I hate that. I don't like hearing that at all.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I've noticed, and I was wondering if I'd been doing too much work on my phone, or I'd got too much bad news, especially from like dad being sick. So every time I looked at my phone, I'd be like, But I know that when I turn my phone on airplane mode, and it's not just because, oh, there's no signal or something going there. I get this like relief. Oh, like airplane mode. And I'm like, oh,
Yes.
like no one can contact me. Everything's
Yes.
okay. And then when I turn it on in the morning, it's just like, oh no, it's back.
It's like a
It's
coffee.
like, do I need to get rid of my phone? Like, what do I do? But yeah, we're just not built for, I mean, I get it. Not built
I don't
for
think we've
it.
evolved to just handle it.
Well, we
I mean,
haven't
especially
evolved
someone
at all,
yeah,
really. So yeah, it's no
Yeah.
wonder we can't handle it.
for
But then
sure.
what are people supposed to do? Because it's just going to get worse.
100% it's getting worse. And Samuel would say like astrality is one of the main causes of all disease, right? Or one of the most common causes of all disease is something he used to say in some of his books. But the solution is not to get rid of the astrality, but to develop a more conscious relationship to the interface. So that interface of like, if you've ever had an etheric experience, it's when you feel just comfortable in your skin, calm, clear-headed, there's love, there's like a quietness in the heart. And this is what, people will go on like meditation retreats to feel this. But that feeling, in my opinion, has to be the North Star. And then from that place, you operate in the astrality, but you're not swimming mindlessly in it. It's like they say to be in the world, but not of the world. So it's like you navigate in there, and you're touching it, you're dancing with it, because life's really boring when you don't do that, right? And we both have online businesses and followers and all this, so like hell yeah, let's keep going. But then taking a moment every single day, or at least an hour every single day, to come back to the etheric. Because the astrality can feel like a disease. I have noticed if I do like 5 Zoom calls, I will feel like I have a disease. Like I will feel heavy headache, achy joints. And I'm like, oh my God, is this the mold? Is this the Lyme?
I know.
I come back to my etheric. I go for a walk. I meditate. I breathe. I clear all that astrality out. And I'm 100% back to myself.
So I'm smiling at the words because I still think the words are funny, but
Yeah,
I'm completely
They're not good
following.
words.
I'm
They're not good
completely
words.
following, and I agree.
Let's change the words. We can say like outer success in the digital world, and then like inner well-being.
Okay.
Yeah, is that better?
I like that. I know like a number of high performers that have gotten weirdly sick, and at some point you're like, well, is it burnout? And then like, what exactly is burnout, and what's the solution? And I was just having a conversation. I was like, well, if you're not going to the bed at the right hour at the same time every night, and if you're not getting up and going outside and seeing sun, and if you're on stimulants or something, that's probably enough. Oh, and if you're eating poorly. Those 4 things, and not exercising. Okay. Those 5 things. If you're doing those things, let's see, even regardless of the stimulants, obviously you're going to feel diseased. Like even just not sleeping. And I think it's okay maybe when you're a teenager or in your early 20s, but as soon as you get to like late 20s or up, if you're not sleeping and you're not exercising and you're not going outside, like make sure you're doing all those things before you're like, I'm diseased.
100%.
And I mean, I'm completely guilty of that because I'll get overwhelmed with work or like life or family problems or whatever and be like, oh, I haven't been outside in a couple days.
Yeah, because
like,
it feels
I probably
boring.
Don't feel good.
When you're really stimulated, all that
feels
stuff
boring.
feels boring,
I know. I need a dopamine detox,
it's an
like
illusion.
for sure.
It's a total illusion though. It's a trap.
Yeah.
I know the trap very well.
So you just have to distance yourself from it and be more disciplined. Don't fall into the dopamine scroll cycle.
I just like to realize that no matter what changes in my outside success, the only thing that matters, like when my head hits the pillow at night, it's like it's me, my wife, my kid, and like my body, like me and my body and my mind, like all that outside circling, swimming shit of like success and money and this and that. It's like, okay, I'm really glad that I'm winning, but I cannot identify with that. I can't be attached to that as my identity. Like my identity has to be more grounded, and that helps me clear the astrality. It's like coming back to ground.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But I wanted to say one thing about stimulants, because so many high performers are doing Adderall or modafinil or coffee. And I have observed that is borrowing tomorrow's energy for today.
I know.
That's all it is.
I just had this conversation. I was like, if you're on, like I know a bunch of people on Adderall and some other stimulants at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you don't feel good and you're taking those 3 things, where is that energy coming from?
Exactly.
If you're doing that every day, like,
Exactly.
oh, I'm full of energy now. You can't make energy
No.
out of nothing. Something is like wasting
You're
away
pulling.
to give
Yeah.
you that. Or you're burning out your dopamine, but I don't think it's probably that simple. There's probably physical things that are being damaged
100%.
when you really need to sleep for a little bit or like take some time and breathe, you know?
You're pulling from the reserve tank. You pull from the organs, pulling that energy, fabricating that energy today, and then tomorrow you're screwed. And then people just keep doing it. They might make a lot of money. They destroy their health. Right. This is the era right now where people are going for fame and money and sacrificing their health for those two. And it doesn't have to be that way. Okay?
That was amazing. That
Yeah.
story's crazy.
Yeah.
I can see why you get some skepticism online,
Of
but
course.
and
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even had this conversation, I think 4 years ago. Then when I got hit with mold, I was like, I didn't know the air could be poison. So that
Yeah.
changed some things. And then the parasite, and I was like, oh man, this is something I would have been so skeptical about. Then when you think about it, you're like, no, what's more likely? All the third world countries have them, but they're the dirty people.
Yeah.
And we're just cleaner than them. Or we don't know how to test properly because our medical system is broken.
Right.
Like, which one's actually more likely? So actually, last question.
Yeah.
So do you do parasite cleanses like yearly or something like they do in other countries?
I do a castor oil flush once a month.
Okay.
Which for me basically takes care of all of the parasites. I don't have any replication. I can feel when they're replicating. My my cravings will change, and I will start craving sugar. So if I travel, and I travel for about 2-3 weeks, and I don't do a castor oil flush, and I eat a lot of restaurant food, I will start waking up feeling like so hungry when I wake up, and feeling like I'm craving sugar, and that's how I know that the bugs are replicating. And so that's when I'll do a castor oil flush. Boom, it's gone. Completely.
And is that
gone.
orally?
That's orally. That's a controversial treatment. So that's just something I do.
Okay.
There's other things you can do, but I do believe that parasite cleanses should be done a minimum of 2 times per year.
Okay.
Even if it's just for like 14 days, you know? But yeah, I do believe they should be done twice a year. And a lot of Chinese medicine doctors and other, ancient traditions will say the same thing.
Well, I think I don't know if it's twice a year or yearly in most third world countries, but it's at least annually
At least
there.
annually, yeah.
Yeah.
In India and in Mexico, they use ivermectin, all kinds of different stuff in Mexico. There's a lot of countries that have a direct protocol, for their kids and stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just can't believe our testing is so poor here. Like, that was shocking to me because the most obvious, like when I stopped being able to eat anything, the most obvious explanation for me that I went to very quickly was maybe I have parasites. Because that just seems like if I'm eating carrots and it's making me very sick, maybe there's something like in my gut that's making me sick.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to a whole bunch of like the mainstream medical system, obviously. And then I went to naturopaths to do like more in-depth testing and things, but nothing caught anything.
Yeah.
So they sent a sample to Africa to do the kind of testing we did in like the 70s and 80s that we don't do anymore because
Just
we're
look
too
at the
advanced.
eggs. They could just see the eggs
And
in your stool.
Yeah, it
You
was
know
like,
what I mean? Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
That's so disappointing.
Yeah. It
After
is.
like 8 years of only eating meat. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we just aren't testing properly. Sorry. Anyway, where can people find you online?
So Instagram at Joshua Macin, and then YouTube at Joshua Macin. And the Detox Dudes is the name of my company. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, the Detox Dudes. I'll share the links. Maybe you can.
Yeah,
put it in
I'll link them in the
yeah.
description and below on YouTube. That was interesting. That was very
Yeah.
interesting. Anyway, good job for you figuring
Yeah.
all that out because
Yeah.
definitely isn't intuitive. Exactly. Well, no, it's only intuitive.
For me,
it's
it
not
was-
logical.
For me, it's been a massive intuitive process.
It's kind of logical as well once you get past the skepticism.
Right. Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Well, thank you for coming on again.
Thank you for having me.